welcome to the Momversation Club, the podcast born out of the idea that every mum needs a tribe. I'm Claire Strong.
And I'm Christina Struckmeyer. We're two moms just like you, navigating the chaotic, challenging, and often isolating world of motherhood.
Yeah, now it said it takes a village to raise a child, but we want to know, where the F is that village?
It's a question that resonates with so many of us who find ourselves raising children, managing careers, and trying to maintain our own identities, often with a sense of isolation.
But we're here to remind you that you're not alone. The Momversation Club is your village, a place where you feel valued, appreciated, and understood.
We believe that by sharing our experiences, successes, and struggles, we can create a virtual village for all you amazing mamas out there.
So join us every week for an honest, raw, and relatable discussion about all aspects of motherhood, including the things you just can't talk about with anyone else.
So if you've ever asked yourself where the F is the village, then you found your tribe. So let's get into it.
Hi, Christina.
Hey, Claire.
How's it going?
I'm doing good. I was, before our show started, kind of messing with my background for those who are on the YouTube. What am I, 80 years old? The YouTubes. I have fresh flowers behind me and like some pictures and kind of getting things going. And I was just sharing with you that I have a new addition to my desk that's giving me a lot of joy.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, show it. It's gorgeous. Okay. I love this.
I'll show our viewers. I have a picture of myself on my desk. For those who are on the YouTube, you can see it. But for those who are listening, it's a picture of myself from, I believe, kindergarten graduation with the little cap and gown.
She's so cute.
Which, I mean, I've never pulled off bangs so well in my life.
That is a really cute photo. You are such a cute little girl. Oh my God.
Thank you. Thank you. But I have it on desk because, I had a lot when I was going through my office change to this house. My decor at my old house was like a lot of like millennial mom stuff, like you go girl boss, work hard and hustle, like a lot of that.
Yeah. Work hard, play hard, no drama, that type of thing.
Yeah. If you can find it at like Hobby Lobby or Home Goods, like I had it on my wall. And as I was just doing my redecorating and switching my career stuff and doing this podcast, my priorities really aren't in that hustle culture anymore. And I'm more so kind of obsessed with making little me proud. So I thought I'd frame little me and put her on my desk. Yeah, just a little reminder of like, there's no one to impress except for like the person you were when you were little, and also maybe old version of me, like old biddy Christina in her wheelchair. I want to be one of those women that rides the motor scooters and like I want to hit other people and and be a menace.
So see you doing that as well.
Yeah. What kind of old person do you want to be, Claire? Are you going to be someone who learns how to sew? Like what kind of fantasies do you have about your old version?
You ever thought about it? I can't sew a thing. I can't even sew a button on. In fact, my 13-year-old sews her own ballet shoes because I don't know how to sew. No, you will not catch me sewing at any age or stage in my life. No, I think I want to be one of these old ladies who is still as active as possible. You know, obviously we don't know what our health is going to be like when we get older, but hopefully, or I'll certainly do what I can for whatever stage of life I'm at. I want to grow old gracefully. I think that's what and do you know what I mean? I want to embrace me. I hope that by that stage in my life that I'm pretty, I'm not as judgy as I am about myself. I want to be content with the life that I've led or that I'm leading at that time in my life. And I want to be at peace with the decisions I've made, particularly whether it's family decisions or career decisions. I want to be okay with that. So I guess I just want to be at peace with myself.
It's a good goal, Claire. I like it. Yeah. And I think that as we get older, I don't know if you feel this, but like, and this kind of leads me to today's topic, but you give a crap about other people's opinions about you less and less and less with every year that goes by.
Oh my God, it's so true. I mean, even going to the gym. Now, I don't love the gym. I love Pilates, but going to the gym at the minute, which has been it's a difficult change for me. I don't love it, I'll be honest. But
Mm.
anyway, so I'm going just to, because I do feel good after I've exercised. I'm not doing it for anyone, I'm doing it for me. But I would have, if I'd have walked in there in my 20s, I would have been so self-conscious. I would have been worrying what the women thought of me. Is that guy looking at me? Oh God, like what is he so self-conscious. And now I just don't give a flying you know what. I do not. I don't care. I don't care what the guys are looking at. I mean, I don't know. It's just like, really? Can you not just focus on yourself? This is ridiculous. And then the
Yeah.
women, I don't think women are particularly judging each other anyway, honestly. I don't think they are. I don't think so.
I think that we're all just so focused on ourselves that we don't have time to judge other people for the most
Yeah.
part. Like, I'm too worried if I go to the gym, which by the way, it's been a hot minute, but if I'm at the gym, I'm more concerned with my breathable spandex is as breathable as it says. Like, I'm not looking at
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah. And I'm not so concerned about wearing fitted stuff anymore to the gym like it used to be. Forget that.
Yeah.
I'd rather have like a comfy t-shirt on than something that's, cropped and, the latest whatever
Style.
from Lululemon. That's
Oh,
great.
man.
But I don't want to be self-conscious in the gym. I just want to do my thing. I don't like being in there to start with. So, I don't
Yeah.
then want
Yeah.
to add on the anxiety by critiquing what I'm wearing. But anyway, listen, I think we should get into today's topic because
Yeah,
this is going to
yeah.
be
Well,
a
I'm
fun one.
saying it's a good lead-in because today we are
Hopefully.
going to talk about we both share a commonality, and that you and I were single moms, and then we
Yes.
went on to remarry and build kind of a blended family with our
Yep.
significant others.
Yep.
And during that middle time between I have divorced to I am now remarried, there was some trials, tribulations, and activities. And the reason
I
it
like
really
how you phrase that, activities.
activities, but the reason I think it relates to what we were talking about earlier is that I don't know about you, but for me, dating in my early 20s versus dating as a single mother, man, was my mindset so different. And like, I just feel like my confidence went up. I kind of knew what I wanted. And so I want to talk today about like our experiences with that, the good, the bad, the ugly. And then maybe just share with our viewers kind of how we navigated dating alongside being a mom, because the first round of dating, we didn't have children. And then all of a sudden we did.
So first of all, I'm going to jump straight in here. I
Okay.
felt like that I had like split personalities. So I was a mom to two little girls, so totally in mom mode with all the toys everywhere and running them around to dancing and and obviously they were babies when I was initially single, so I was in the kind of little mode with them with the littles. But I remember distinctly having so many different personalities. So I had my mom personality, but then I'd get a call from my boyfriend, and then it would be, or the guy I was dating, and I'd totally switch. They'd be like, it's like, who is this person? Like, hi, yeah, how's it going? Everything's good. Everything's going great here. How about you? Yeah, lazy. Yeah, we can do dinner tonight. Like I've got everything down, but really, I'd got the kids having a meltdown. I was having to mute the phone so we couldn't hear them, and then I'm having to like tidy the house before he came over for dinner, and so that's what I remember from that period, the split personalities. It's your mum mode, and then it's your dating mode. And then, hey, I've not dated for years because I've been married. At that point, I'd been married for, God knows how many years, several years. And so
going backwards, Claire, so with your ex-husband, when did you meet him? Like, how old were you when you were in the dating field last time before you met before you were in the single mom situation?
Yeah, we were really young. Like I met my ex-husband when we were 18 and we got married at 21, which is kind of, I know, which is ridiculous in this day and age. I've said to my girls, they're absolutely not getting married until they're in their 30s. Because I just don't think I don't think you know yourself. I don't think you know yourself. So I don't know why we thought it was a good idea to get married at 21. But in your 20s and your 30s, you're discovering yourself. You really don't know who you are in your early 20s. And so I remember when I started dating again in my early 30s, I felt really really confident. And actually, I look back on that time, and I'd say that was my most confident. I
Your
felt good in my
single mom
skin.
dating
Yeah,
situation?
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And actually, and I know this is not something you necessarily tell everyone,
That's kind
but
of our whole thing, Claire. That's what we do
well,
here.
this is the thing. I have to remember where I am, so
Yeah.
I can tell
Yes,
our
yes, yes.
listeners. Hey, listen, I'm telling you now, the sex was fantastic in my 30s, in my early 30s.
I can see why we're
Amazing
whispering
because,
now.
yeah, and I'll tell you why it was. I'll tell you why it was because I was comfortable in my own skin and I felt good about myself. So I didn't need a guy to say, oh, you're looking good or you're great at this or, oh, wow, good at that. I didn't know. I didn't need anyone to
Yeah,
tell me that because I kind of knew. And I was like, oh, actually, this is funny because I didn't know. I'll be honest, I wasn't crazy, into sex during my marriage. Um, I mean, you just, life happens. You're having kids, it's busy, it's stressful. We got married very young, so we're obviously very much developing as people. So it wasn't a
yeah,
massive part of my life. It wasn't that important to me. And then when I became, separated and divorced, and I was in my early 30s at that point, that was the first time in my life that I truly enjoyed it.
oh, get it, girl. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
And
I'm with you.
yeah,
There is a big difference in the confidence that comes from knowing yourself really well, knowing what you like, what you don't like, and having the ability
yeah,
to stand on your own 2 feet, not really needing someone, but more so wanting someone, like being able to just look for companionship rather than someone to be your all everything for, for whatever reason that, as you're
yes.
dating,
And
the reason you're dating is different than it was in your
yeah,
early times.
it is.
Um,
And then the other thing I remember, Christina, sorry to interrupt, but just while we're on this
no, no.
topic, I remember thinking that, so the first guy that I was dating after my separation, I knew that wasn't going to be a long-term thing. I knew that that was a then thing. This guy, I wasn't looking for my next, my next husband. It sounds like
Yeah.
I have some sort of serial, marrier. But that's not a
Headhunter.
word. Exactly. But I knew, I was like, this guy isn't my forever guy. He's somewhere in the future. I don't even know about him yet. But this guy is for right now. We're both having just a bit of fun. Yes, we respect each other, but he's not looking to, take on a new family. I'm not looking for him to be a dad to my kids. This is just a him and me thing, and we'll keep the kids out of it. And we kept the kids very separate, so the kids were never really involved in
Yeah.
that relationship because I knew it wasn't going to be a long term thing. And this was something that I could manage separate from the children. So I knew
Yeah, we
that
call
about
that well, I used to call that a palate cleanser. When you're with someone
it.
for a really long
Ooh,
time and you just need something
yeah.
different for a minute to kind of just shake things off and get to know what you actually want long term.
So if I remember back to that relationship as well, the guy I was dating after my divorce and before I met my husband, he had also recently gone through a divorce. And I tell you what it was
Mm.
about him. I actually really admired some of his qualities. I admired how he had conducted himself during his divorce, and he was a great dad. And so, even though I knew that he wasn't the long term partner for me, he did have qualities that I knew moving forward I wanted in my long term partner. So, that relationship did do that for me. And then it was, when that relationship was fizzling out, that I met my current husband, and he ticks all the boxes that I needed in a long-term relationship. And however many years later, we're married, and he's a stepdad to the girls, and yeah, and he he's my person. So it's funny how things work out. But I want to hear about you because I know you've got some stories that you have to share with us.
Oh my
Tell me.
gosh, I do have some stories. Okay, so I don't know about you. I don't how long did you wait until after the divorce to like start dipping your toe into the dating world and like get in that space?
I think for me it was kind of a maybe slightly different to a regular situation because I knew that my first marriage it'd been over for a while, and so
Yeah.
we separated. But we'd kind of been separated for about 6 months prior to that, honestly. But we officially separated, and then I'd say it wasn't long after. It was a few months after, if I remember rightly, maybe 3 months after. And it wasn't that. So I didn't go on a dating site. Actually, I wasn't actively like looking to connect with someone or start a new relationship at all because I frankly wanted some time on my own. But I met this guy. I just happened to, literally, I came upon him when I was walking in. I was living in France at the time. I was walking down this country lane in France and met this guy. And I'll save that story for another time. But the
Oh
point is, I
my
wasn't
goodness,
out.
Claire.
Yes,
That's
I
amazing. So
wasn't
you
out.
have a little that's what they call the meet cutes, where you like actually meet
Oh,
organically out in the wild. Like a lot of romantic
oh,
comedies start
it
like
literally
that, where it's
was.
like,
I'm serious. My husband and I do think sometimes we need to sell our story to Hollywood because I was literally walking along this French country lane holding a baguette in my hand. No, I wasn't really, but I was walking to. I
I
was
was so
walking.
invested. I was like, well, baguette.
No, but
Oh,
listen, it's not that far fetched because I was actually walking to the boulangerie to buy a baguette. I genuinely was. Anyway, and this guy was riding his horse, and I'm into horses. And so I stopped to talk. I wasn't interested in the guy, I was interested in the horse because the horse looked like the horse looked a bit like my old horse. So I was like, oh my God, can I pet your horse? Well, we say stroke in England. I don't use the word stroke here when I'm talking about petting people's animals because I've been told it has a different connotation.
I was gonna say, all right. So your pickup line was, "Can I stroke your horse?" And he went, "Absolutely."
It genuinely was. I was like, oh, hi, can I stroke your horse? And he went, yeah. And apparently, as I was stroking his
Oh
horse,
my god.
he noticed my hands and he had a bit of a thing for my hands. Now, actually, I was a hand model. I don't know whether we can see on YouTube.
Oh
I
wow,
was a hand model in
fancy.
another life. But so anyway, the point is that was an unplanned meeting and it just went from there and it was very hot and heavy and fun, but it was a short-term thing. And then when I met my husband now, I'd probably been seeing that guy for about a year and I met my husband, and then I knew that stopgap relationship, I will call it. I knew that
Sure.
was on its way out, so I
Yeah.
put an end to that and started dating my husband.
What a fun story.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that so I have a couple friends who are the reason this topic came up for me is a
Mm.
couple friends that are going through changes in the relationship. Some of them are single moms that are like
Yeah.
just now getting ready to start dating. Some
Yeah.
people are getting out of marriages.
Mhm.
Seems to be the trend. I did not do that. I did not start that trend despite our
Well,
podcast that we had recorded in the beginning.
yeah, listen,
But
I kind of did back in the day because, and it was inadvertently, but I'm telling you, I was the first out of my friends to actually leave my
yes,
husband in divorce, and then
we
they all started doing it, and I was like, oh my
we
God, I
talked
hope
about this in a
I don't
podcast
leave divorce.
earlier. And I it's funny because we have a listener who's a friend of mine, and she goes, "I'm happily married, but I listened to your podcast, and now I'm kind of like, maybe."
Are you kidding? Oh my
She's
God.
joking, like she's not going to. But anyways, it brought me to zooming into that time for me of
Mm.
like being a single mom for the first time. And I would always joke when I was married, like, oh man, I could never date these days. All the Hinge and the Bumble and the Tinder and all the different
Yeah,
things, and
yeah,
you don't get to meet
yeah.
people. And because when I was dating the first time, I met Stella's father, and when I was working a retail job, when I was in college, he worked at the same retail store as me, and so for Stella's dad and I, it was a real organic meetup. We had mutual
Yeah.
friends, like, and
Hmm.
I was constantly meeting people in college. We had classes, you were at the bars, you were dancing, and
Sure.
there's always
Yeah.
new people coming into your life, always organically.
Yeah.
And it was a different time. So
Yes.
I hadn't been single since about 22. And then
Okay.
I found myself in my early 30s, all of a sudden single again. And at the same
Yes.
time, I also had been working on my physical health. So it was also like I had a banging body. So I was like, oh God,
Wow.
I felt like I was in like a brand
Weird.
new sports car. Like, let's see how long this baby revs up on the open road. But so I was single, but I was kind of reluctant to date at first because I thought I should give myself some time to like just be my own boyfriend, girlfriend, give myself some space to kind of heal and grow. And I'm going to be honest, the reason I started dating is I heard my ex was. So the month that he had moved out of our home, he started dating immediately. And like,
how did that make you feel?
Well, I didn't know at the time. So I found out probably about 4 or 5 months after the fact that he had a girlfriend at that time that he had met pretty fast and like was talking to. And honestly, it was this weird vibe because I didn't want him back. Like that was not what was going on.
Yes.
But it was almost like, oh shit, is he winning the divorce? Is this like a situation where I am the one that can't find someone and this guy immediately like found a person? Like, I felt like I was going to be the one that found someone first.
Was it almost like a competition in your head? Did you kind of get a bit competitive about it?
It felt a little competition-y, and it wasn't something I wanted. I wasn't like seeking that out, but it did feel that way if I'm being completely honest, which is what we do on this podcast.
Yeah, we are brutally honest on this podcast, Christina, to the point where I would discourage my mother to listen to subjects covered on this podcast.
I will tell my certain people, be like, maybe not this one. Maybe like next week. Next week is going to be the time to rejoin.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
So anyways, I felt kind of like a little bit miffed that I wasn't the first to date, that I wasn't the first person to be on the dating apps and do all that stuff. So that very day that I found out that was going on, I went, why not me? So I put together a profile and I put myself together on all the dating apps. I originally only picked 2. I picked Hinge and Bumble. I felt like those were the respectable ones. And I just started like seeing what was out there. And it was so interesting because when I was dating the first time, it was like I had such low self-esteem. And I remember being very excited with anyone who would look my way. Like my type was people who liked me. Like that was like I wasn't looking for certain qualities. It was like, oh, this person thinks I'm pretty and smart and funny. Like, let me just go with him. Versus in my 30s, I was like, I know I'm pretty, funny, smart, hardworking. I don't need anybody to tell me that. I'm like with you in your earlier statement. Like, I actually am looking for you to bring something to the table because I've got a lot on the table already.
Yeah, I think that's something that happens to women, especially in their 30s, because I think your 20s, I mean, teenage years, just rule those out. 20s, rule those out too. You're finishing university, you're trying to get your first job, or you're doing life. However you're doing it, you're doing life. It's chaotic. You're probably having kids, whatever. But 30s, I feel that that's the age that a lot of women do come into their own and they do have this confidence they've never had. And so, I think that it's very empowering. It's very empowering. So the same went for me when I actually met my now husband. I didn't need him to do anything for me. I actually thought, I mean, he's quite the catch, but I thought I was the better catch. I'll be honest, just because I was full of self-confidence and I liked me. So I'm like, you know what?
I love it.
You have me. Okay, you may be this big shot, lawyer and whatever else, and good for you. But I'm a decent catch in my own right because of all these things that I've achieved. I'm a survivor. I don't quit. I'm outgoing. There's lots of different things that I have in my armor that you should be delighted to have as a partner. So I remember feeling like that, and that's a good thing because I think when you're feeling not as confident, That then can lead to relationships that aren't right. And because, like you
Yeah,
alluded to earlier, Christina, you are needing affirmation from another person. And if you are in
totally.
that vulnerable space, you're going to make compromises and you're possibly going to be in toxic relationships that are just not good for you. But if you're not confident, you may think, well, it's better than nothing. It's better than being on my own.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So it was this really big open door of like, oh my, I felt like a kid in a candy store. I was like, oh my gosh, look at all these handsome men. And
Yeah.
I am a pretty decent, I felt like I was a very beautiful catch, like you said. And
Yeah, you
so
are.
I opened my app and I had like 60 people look at my profile or whatever in like a day.
See?
And I was
6-0.
like, holy, yeah. I was like, holy crap, this is awesome.
Right.
So then for those who aren't familiar with dating apps, because you might be a married person who hasn't dated since your 20s,
I've never been on them, so you need to enlighten me.
it is the funnest video game. Okay. So you pull up the app and most of them work pretty similarly. You see a picture and a little bit of information about someone. If you want to know more, you can expand their profile, see more pictures, see more info, whatever.
Okay.
But pretty much, if you like them, you swipe your phone right. And if you don't like them, you swipe left.
Oh, it's
So
literally.
it's literally like going through a pile of play cards and being like, go fish, go fish, go fish. You stay with me. Go fish, go fish, go fish. Like, it's really fun.
Fun, but that's kind of brutal.
It is, but here's the deal: is so if you swipe right on someone, and then they also swipe right on you, your app goes, it's a match, and it'll say like you two both think you're each other are attractive.
Huh. Okay.
And then it's kind of an invitation for that person to message you or vice versa. And you can start having a conversation on the app. But I'll tell you what, after being divorced and going without my love tank being full for a really, really long time, because I'm with you, the marriage had been over a long time ago and I was going without for a really long time. The dopamine from seeing it's a match was addictive. I didn't even really want to date at first. I was like, I just want more of this, like more of it's a match. This person finds you attractive. I'm like, it just felt really, really nice to just get that information. I didn't even need to go on a date right away.
Oh my God. So yeah, I mean, more and more people are meeting that way as well, aren't they, Christina? Like most of my friends.
Like, nobody is doing the organic meet cute with
I mean,
kind of thing.
Unless you meet someone at work, or in my case, you meet someone walking down a country lane in France, or at a French chateau, which is how I met my husband. That, that unless you're doing that, I think most people are meeting on apps because it's just how people's lives are now. A lot of people work from home; they're just busy, and it's just more convenient. So it's
you can control what they see, what they don't see. You get to cultivate like how you're presented on this app. And it was interesting to see. It was funny because I ran into a couple of people that were on multiple apps and how they present themselves on one app versus another app. And like, they weren't lying or anything, but they kind of had a tilt like this. He's seeming more like a gentleman on this app versus more of a player on this app.
Oh, funny. So I've got a question to ask. Did you ever meet someone from an app and when you actually met them in person, they were nothing like what their profile picture looked like?
No, but I do have a really interesting story about meeting someone online. So strap in. Strap the hell in.
Okay. Buckling in, fastening the seatbelt. We're good to go.
This is some shit. Okay. So my first date out the gate, I accidentally went on a date with someone who was a murderer.
What the heck? What?
The lead, and I'm gonna elaborate, but like that
How
is
did you find out he was a murderer? Okay, come on then.
Okay, so here's the story. So what happened is we were talking on an app called Hinge, and he seemed pretty great. Like he was very muscular, funny, charismatic. And
I just want to say one thing. I'm so sorry. He should have been on the app Unhinged.
Claire, but I'm
I've got to tell you that. Okay, so he should some unhinged app. But yes, carry on.
He linked me in, like he reeled me in because I was very interested. And I thought, safe dates, like you want to make sure that you're dating safely, like as far as like keeping yourself from being murdered. Little did I know, right? Like he was a murderer. So I was like, okay, let's go meet for coffee at this very public, like walking space.
Yes.
That way, if he is a creep, I can have my coffee to go and just get the hell out of there. And if he's nice, we can continue the date on to like maybe lunch or something like that and continue on the date. That was kind of my go-to dating move. It was like, be in a short location that you can walk away from and don't give too much information about yourself.
For sure, yeah.
So anyways, he seemed great. We had a great coffee date. I asked him about his family. He talked about, normal stuff, didn't bring up anything weird, had a job, was with it. It's like, okay, well, you know what? He asked me on a second date as the first date was ending. And I went, sure. And he goes, can I maybe pick you up for dinner sometime? And I said, that would be great. That would be lovely, right? So then, first off, so stupid. Like if you're dating after a decade, don't give anyone your address, okay? I had him pick me up like a gentleman on date 2 at my house instead of meeting me anywhere. Okay. So anyways, he picks me up. He's a gentleman. We go to dinner. We're at dinner. We're having a great conversation. And we're talking about like deal breakers. It's like a funny conversation we're having. And he goes, he's talking about like bad breath and like funny stuff. And I say, well, as long as you're like, not fresh out of prison or like has killed someone, you're not like a crazy murderer. And he takes the longest pause ever and says, I've been to prison. And I said, oh my God. In my head, I'm going, please be for tax evasion. Like, please be a white collar crime. So I go,
nonviolent.
So, and I'm just like, oh shit, like what? This is unprecedented. And so I'm like, okay, well, if you don't mind me asking, what for? Like, what was your the time for? And he said, first degree murder.
Oh my God. Who did he kill?
His brother. There was a fight at his family home and he killed his brother and he did his time. He did like 15 years in prison and he got out.
Wow.
And he's a wonderful man. Like he seems great, but like that's kind of a deal breaker for me. Like murder is like one of those things. But Claire, he drove me to this restaurant. He knows where I live. And now he's told me he's murdered someone.
So hang on a second. I want to know, first of all, how did you get home? Did you Uber?
I continued the date. I didn't know what to do. We had already ordered. Like I didn't know what to do. He knew where I lived, so if I Uber away, so I was like,
you didn't want to anger him.
I didn't want to anger him. So I was like, let me just scooch out of this a little bit, like with some class and some. I'm just gonna maybe go get somebody that has a gun and like come to my house because anyways, he ended up like driving me home. Very sweet guy. Mm-hmm. I politely was like, great seeing you. Thank you so much for dinner. Get out of here. He messages me for another date. And I say,
did you lock your door?
Hell yeah, I locked my door. I locked my screen door. I bolted it. I slept with a baseball bat. Are you kidding me, Claire? That's not a good situation. So anyways, this is my like story that I've shared with people. Is like, you don't know who people are until you know who they are. And thankfully this murderer was not he was reformed because I'm still alive. Yeah. And he didn't stalk me after or anything. I let him off easy, and we ended up just kind of going our separate ways. But close call.
Wow. So I guess the moral of that story then, particularly as it pertains to online dating, is don't give away personal information like your address.
No.
Make sure you're meeting them in a public place until you're very sure that this person is kosher and hasn't been in jail for first-degree murder.
It was either first degree or manslaughter, but it was murder. Like he was someone had murdered someone.
Okay.
Yeah, it was shit. And poor Alex, when he met me, he got like 31 questions, background checked, like Googled. Because when he found me, it was post-murderer, and I was not taking any chances.
And okay, just for the record, Alex hasn't been in jail. He hasn't killed anyone, to your knowledge.
To my knowledge, but there is a lot of farmland out here. I mean, just kidding.
There could be a lot of bodies.
No, he's so sweet. But anyways, so was this murderer.
I just can't get that out of my head. Listen, I want to know from our listeners. Share some of your dating stories with us.
Yeah, for sure. But I would say that story informed the rest of my dating time. So
I'm sure it did. I'm glad it did.
Yes, it was a very good first date out the gate, because it really like made me wake up and go, you are not 21 anymore. Like this is you need to make sure that you're safe. Things are okay. We're not in the days of club hopping anymore. Like people are sketched.
So the other thing is as well, it's not just you at that point. At the point when you're dating again and you've got kids, you've got to think about them. So yes, okay, you could have a fun time and whatever else, but if something happens to you, whether it's emotional, physical, whatever it might be, that's going to have a direct impact on your kids. So you've got more to consider. You've got more to lose.
There's
more at stake.
After that, I was very, very careful, and I dated, around, had lots of first dates, which was really fun. I tell my friends who are recently single, like, first dates can be really fun because you get dressed up, you're getting to know someone, and you don't have to go on a second date. You can go, oh, this was nice. Bye. Like, you don't have to go on that second date. So after that whole thing went down, I obviously dated around. I had kind of a situation like you had, where you have someone who's absolutely not going to be your person, but they're kind of fun to be around. And then I met Alex, and after the 31 questions of making sure he wasn't a murderer, we started dating, and we fell pretty quickly. And then we came to the part where if you're serious about someone and you've been dating them for a minute, you start thinking, should I introduce this person to my kids? Like, is this someone who now gets brought to the second, zone here of not just me as me, but me in my mom element, like you said, wearing different hats. Like, can he handle me as a mom too?
Yes, especially when he hasn't had kids prior. Like my husband hadn't had kids. So I needed to, the same thing that you surely went through is, okay, is this guy's good for me? If it was just him and I on our own, this is good, but how is he going to react and act in an environment that requires him to be a father figure? Okay, so how long then was it before you introduced Alex to your daughter?
So for us, it was pretty short. We dated for about 2 months before he met Stella. And of those 2 months, we spent a lot of time together.
Okay.
So it wasn't 2 months of a couple dates. Sorry, go ahead, Claire.
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask, I'm just interested. How did you introduce him to her? Who did you say he was? So
I had the idea to have us meet at a playground. So that way, it was kind of like a non-specific zone for her. Like she was able to kind of not associate he's at our house and it's in my space. And I introduced them as mom's friend. So this is mommy's friend, Alex. And I, want to introduce you to him. Later, I did introduce him as more than a friend. But the first meeting, I wanted to make sure that they vibed well. Because there's a chance that he gets in that space with me, especially because I have a special needs child. And he runs. And I didn't want to introduce him as anything other than a friend in case he ran.
Yeah, I hear you. And I did the same with my girls. So, my husband was just my friend initially when I introduced them to him. And we did have a few years where I was, we weren't together. Because I was in the UK, he was over here in the US. And then when the girls and I moved over here, we weren't living together initially. He was doing his own thing, and so I tried to gradually introduce them to him. But then our situation was a little bit more pressure cooker, just because um, we'd moved over here, and we did move pretty quickly after that, I've got to say. But it just, each situation is different. I think if you know this person is going to be your long-term person, I think you are, there's part of me that's very keen to get the blended family going. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think we should do another episode just talking about the dynamics of that, because I mean, we're talking about the dating aspect of things right now, but I mean, actually, like living with someone and introducing the kids and blended families, that's a whole thing. We need to do a show on that for sure.
Yeah, but going back to the dating piece, I think it's important when
Mm.
you're dating as a single mom to really make sure that before you make that step to introducing them, that you're certain that this is someone who's going
Yes.
to stay put for a while. You've had a lot of
Yes.
discussions about, your children and the way that you are, and
Yeah.
you've made sure that they have that buy-in of like if they get introduced
Yeah.
that they're not gonna just like bounce out of there.
Yeah.
It's
Sure.
different when you add a kid into the mix, even before you live together and before you co-blend. The dating piece of that, of just dating someone and having that courtship start to include your child, because you're
Yeah.
courting them too.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's a totally different dynamic. Listen, I want to hear from our listeners. I want to know, their stories. We'd love to hear, if you've been in a similar situation to us, what did dating look like for you? Especially, having already had a child or children, how did you navigate that? So please, we love, love, love your comments. So
And
let us know your
and
stories,
if you have
and
a
we'll
funny
continue this.
dating story that tops mine, I'd love to hear it.
Oh yeah, let's throw that challenge out there. Yeah, have you dated a murderer? If so, we'd love to hear it. Who can top Christina's dating
Good
story?
luck.
We want to know.
Good luck.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of the Momversation Club.
And if you've enjoyed today's show, which we hope you have, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach even more moms and build a stronger village.
Until next time, bye from us.